It's October and it's time to update the report that I last prepared in April. Let's take a look at it. So this is the output. I have formulas here. I have the last name and first name column. I have a formula here. So this is the last name and the first name columns. I have a formula here in column F, and there is a lookup in column G from the sheet territory map file, which is here, and there is a filter applied in the status column. And down below I see sales by territory grouped by status. I see completed, cancelled, refund, and this gives me the total sales for the territory Midwest that have a status of completed and that have status of cancelled and refunded and so on. Let's take a quick look at the source data. So my source data has the customer name in the same column, last name comma first name. So in this output looks like this data was separated into two columns. When I built this file long ago, I knew exactly what I was doing. But now I am spending time figuring out my own work. Which step came first? What's the filtering criteria? And why the sales rep name has been converted to uppercase. This is a common problem when working with Excel files. The process is invisible. Now let me show you the KNIME approach. Look at this. I can immediately see every step I took. CSV readers bring in the sales data and the territory map data. I have a cell splitter that splits the customer name. Then I have a expression to convert the sales rep name into uppercase. I have a similar expression on the territory map data to convert the sales rep name to uppercase. Then here we are doing a lookup of the sales territory name by the sales rep name. Finally, node here that resorts the column, and finally the filter for status, and an Excel writer to export this into an Excel file. On the calculation part, I have group by that totals up the sales by territory, and I have a few more nodes that format the data the way I want. And finally, the Excel writer node exports the data to an Excel file. Everything is visible and everything is in order. And look at these annotations. We're going to go through step by step and look at what each node does. First, the CSV reader imports the data, the raw data from the CSV files. The cell splitter node splits the customer name column by a comma, and it creates additional columns as needed. Then I'm taking the split column names and giving them meaningful names such as customer last name and customer first name. In my next step, I'm converting using an expression the sales rep name to uppercase, so it makes it easy to look up against the sales rep name from the territory map file. And on the territory map side, I'm reading in that data from a CSV file and applying the same expression to convert the sales rep name to uppercase. And finally, my joiner node helps me do the lookup. So the lookup criteria is to use sales rep from the sales data and sales rep from the territory map data, and bring all the matching rows together, and in the output include only the columns that we want. From the sales data, everything except the customer name, and from the territory data, we only want the territory column. The column resorter node helps me to resort the data in the way I want. I want territory to show up right after sales rep and the customer last name and first name to show up right after the order date. Rest of the columns will stay as is. Finally, the row filter node is used to include only the completed status from the status column in the final output. My Excel writer node then writes out this data into a sheet called Sales Data March 2024 Cleaned and a sheet name called Cleaned. When we want to see the total sales by territory, we are using a group by node where we are grouping the data by status and territory, and we are taking the total sales column and adding that up using a sum function. The output gives me the status column, the territory column, and the total sales. I then use a pivot to pivot the status and the total sales column in a way that I can see the territory column, and the status is split into 3 columns and the totals are also split into 3 columns. Finally, I'll sort the data by territory alphabetically and resort the columns, and finally export the data out to an Excel, which is going to the same Excel file but to a new sheet in the same Excel file by the name Sales by Territory. You'll see in the Excel output that KNIME generated, we have 2 sheets. One is called Cleaned and the other is called Sales by Territory. The Sales by Territory shows the territory column and the sales totals split by the order status of completed, cancelled, and refunded. And the sheet called Cleaned shows me only the completed orders along with the territory for each order. So that's the workflow, and here is the key difference. In Excel, when I open the file next month, I'm confused. I have to dig into the formulas, look at what column does what, and figure out my order of operations. In KNIME, when I open this workflow next month, I immediately see the entire process. Every step is labeled, every decision is documented. I can execute it right away or modify it with confidence. This is what I mean by visual traceability. The workflow documents itself. You're not just building a process, you're creating documentation that yourself or your team can actually easily understand. If you're tired of opening your Excel files and thinking, what did I do here? What do I need to do now? Try building your workflows in KNIME. Your future self will thank you. Download this workflow and the sample data from the links in the description below and try it out yourself. Next week, I'm showing you how to replace Excel's nightmare if nested formula with a rule engine node in KNIME that will help you keep your sanity. It's the same logic, but it's much more easier to read than the nested if functions. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and if this helped you, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you next week.